Bean Games!
Euro Truck Simulator 2. There's a little theme song for you. Hey guys, pardon my funky lighting. Like half of my face is in shadow, and half is in light. The dual nature of my essence. I don't know. I got lights that I got to figure out, but that's for another time, another day. Welcome back to Bean Games Trucking. It is so good as always to have you here. I'm going to be perfectly transparent right off the bat. This is going to be a really short episode. Just a busy week, a whole lot going on, and I'm committed to bringing you something today. So probably just going to hop in, do a quick delivery, check on our man Ryan, make sure he's not flipping his truck all up left and right. But so far he's had what, 2 days of employment? I guess just one full day after we hired him. And he seems to be doing well so far. So we're seeing some good success. I don't know how it goes if we have to fire employees or if we do performance reviews. I don't know. We may have to just kind of invent some of that as we go along. But we'll take it case by case. You know, Bean Games, we're starting off here as just a family business. You know, we're not all about the corporate world, pump and dump employees, so we want to give as many people fair shakes as possible. And I've got great faith in Ryan. I think he's going to turn out super well. Super well. So what have we got today? We've got pet food going across Italy to Venezia. Salt and spices up to Claremont. I like that. Salt and spices seems more interesting than wall panels or sawdust panels. So that's exactly what we're going to take, is salt and spices. I can only hope, as we often do with some of our deliveries here, that we are allowed to take a little pinch of whatever spices we're carrying and put them into the snack box. Whatever snacks we got in there, you know, maybe some tortillas, some instant rice. Instant rice is always going to be more tasty with some salt and spices. It's a true story. Alright, let's get right out on the road. Ooh, red light. Oh, come on. Did I really? I barely... I mean, look at that. My wheels technically aren't across the line, but they got me for the red light violation. I'm off to a great start. Next rest stop in 7 hours, 58 minutes. This job should take 8 hours. Basically, I should get right there and then immediately go take a nap. So that will actually work out pretty well in terms of where we'll cut it for today. Not gonna cross that red line. I'm gonna stay way back here. There's no sense in even drifting forward. All we got is a big old box here, Transinet. We don't no clue as to what kind of salt and or spices might be in there. I wish we could like do some clipping camera work to get in there and see. Just bags of spices. I hope that salt and spices is not a euphemism for drug money that we're running for. Was it the Greeks or the Danes? Whichever one of those organizations we at one point said we might be running dirty cargo for. Anyway. No, salt and spices. I'm sure it's the front half of the truck is just salt. Just bags and bushels and cartons of salt, salt bricks, salt licks, salt lamps. My wife has one of those in our bedroom, a salt lamp. One of those Himalayan pink salt, pink Himalayan salt, pink salt from the Himalayas, something like that. Himalayan pink salt lamp. Yeah, it's a lamp. Looks like a big old salt crystal. I mean, I say it looks like a salt crystal. That it is a salt crystal, and I found that out one day when I said, "Why do they call this a salt lamp? Surely it's not actually salty." And on a whim, I went to lick the lamp, and incredibly salty. Like it's actually a big old chunk of salt. That one spun me for a loop. I will be honest. Actually salt. Doesn't seem to have any... Ooh, man, we're... Oh, let's not take this ramp at 75 billion miles an hour. Ooh, okay, here we go. We're in a hurry to drop off the salt and spices, but not that much of a hurry. As far as spices go, you know, spices are a great thing. I'm no chef. I mean, I've talked before about recipes I like to make, and I do like to try my hand in the kitchen from time to time. But you know, a real mastery of spices, I feel, is kind of like one of those higher tier levels of kitchen expertise. I sort of have some of my go-tos. You know, like when I'm making Mediterranean, anything, hummus especially, you know, love me some hummus. Make lots of hummus. Cumin. Cumin is just the key there. Cumin is the cornerstone of good hummus, in my humble opinion. For your basic hummuses. Hummi? Yeah, hummi. Anyway. Now I also make this other hummus that's a black bean smoked paprika hummus. Obviously that uses smoked paprika. That's good too, but 7 times out of 10 I will go straight for the basic hummus. Just a very simple recipe. I pretty much always can whip up and have on hand. It's great. And cumin. Cumin is a big kicker there. Then you've got your other kind of Italian-ish spices. Whenever I'm making like a minestrone or a vegetable soup, you know, you got to put in your basil, you got to put in your oregano, a little pinch of rosemary and thyme, maybe, like that old Simon and Garfunkel song. Parsley, sage, rosemary, and thyme. Makes for a pretty good soup. Oregano is a real key there. I remember once making a soup and just being like, let me just chuck in a whole bunch of oregano. I think it may have been one of those situations where I meant to do a little and I accidentally dumped in a lot, and I was like, ooh, did I just ruin the soup? Did I just take this soup for a ride? And I did take it for a ride, but I took it for a ride to Flavortown because oregano was just what the kitchen master ordered. It was very good. Very good soup. What other spices do I use? Cinnamon. I use cinnamon on a nigh daily basis. Put it in my coffee. Why do I do this? I'm not entirely sure. I remember reading once it has good health benefits or something. Many spices do. But it's one of those things I put in my coffee. Just a little bit of Splenda, some cinnamon, some almond milk. Like that cinnamony taste. Little hint, little waft of cinnamon. Then you've got your pumpkin spices. You know, always amuses me when people talk about pumpkin spice. You know, pumpkin spice this and pumpkin spice latte, and pumpkin spice has just been, you know, the flavor of the early 21st century, in the fall anyway. But pumpkin spice has nothing to do with pumpkin. I just always feel like I have to remind people that. No, pumpkin spice is like the spices that you use in pumpkin-flavored fall dishes, like pumpkin pie. All pumpkin spices is like cinnamon and nutmeg and cloves. Not actual pumpkin flavoring. But pumpkin spice certainly rolls off the tongue a little easier than cinnamon, nutmeg, clove blend. Speaking of cloves, very instrumental spice. One of the first spices that I ever remember being aware of in terms of like not just a salt and pepper spice that had an impact on me somewhat early on when I was, a teenager or something, I guess. My dad had this cookie recipe that had been passed down for generations in our family. He kind of rediscovered it. There had been a period where it was either lost or he didn't have the full recipe. It was for molasses cookies that my great aunt Abby would make. Now, my great aunt Abby, who if I ever met, I met when I was, a year old or something. If I did, I don't remember. Our live paths did not cross in any substantial manner. But she was quite a baker. I think I may have mentioned on my dad's side of the family, kind of a line of bakers there. And I think she was my great aunt, I believe. I get really fuzzy with family tree history type stuff. But she was quite a baker. And she made these molasses cookies, amongst many other things, that I guess were just divine. Like Dad always recalled them as like the taste of his childhood or something like that. And he had tried a few times to replicate the recipe using some different molasses cookie recipes and everything, but never quite got it exactly like Abby used to make. Just couldn't quite match it. Oops, just nudged that guy back there. Sorry, bud. Until one day another family member turned up, like an old recipe card, or was in touch with someone who remembered how Abby used to make them, and typed out the recipe and sent it to Dad. And the big ingredient, the real special ingredient that set this recipe apart from your typical molasses cookies, was cloves. And I remember reading the recipe, like it wasn't that strange of a recipe, but a big amount of cloves. And there was actually like this footnote at the bottom of the recipe that said Abby loved cloves. She put cloves in everything. Like that was one of her secret weapons in the kitchen, was putting cloves in spaghetti sauce and pie crusts and who knows what else. But that did it. Like Dad made that recipe, and there was something about that extra, teaspoon or tablespoon or however much of cloves that just it punctuated up this kind of spice, aroma, and taste that was very pleasing, like brought out the molasses more, but it was definitely unique. Like it wasn't one of those like, oh yeah, this is just, more cinnamony or more clovey, or sorry, more nutmeggy. It was the cloves. And so Dad was very pleased at that. And then like a year or two later, I just decided kind of on a whim to try making the cookies. And I pulled out the recipe and I made a pretty good batch. And Dad was just as pleased as anything. He could tell that the baking genes had been passed down our family, and I had inherited them, and what a joy. And that was a good thing. I haven't made those molasses cookies now in years. I remember making them 4 or 5 years ago maybe, but it's been quite a while. It's been a good while. But I still got the recipe card somewhere, or a copy of it. Sometimes you get those special family recipes, and you don't want to let them go. You got to keep them in the book, even if you only make them once every now and then in a blue moon. Save those recipes. I need a better recipe organization method. I'll find a lot of recipes that I'll make, special, unique recipes of interesting foods or something that I'll make and it'll turn out good, and so I want to save the recipe, but I've never locked on to like a good app or digital way. I experimented for a while with a couple different recipe organization systems online, different programs and apps, but nothing quite took. Because usually what I'll do is I'll find a recipe and I'll print it out from somewhere, some website, cooking blog, something like that. Sometimes I'll make tweaks to it or something. But then I've just got this printed paper. So I've got this like stack of probably a dozen or 15. Ooh, we're in a construction zone. Just this stack of papers with all these recipes. Everything from like my go-to stir-fry sauce to my go-to hummus recipes to special occasion things like baklava and ohana breakfast bread and its accompanying bread pudding. And so I'm like, I should probably take all these pages and like get them laminated or something, because like they're my recipes. I could always transfer them over to cards, start like a little card folder. It's one of those projects that's on the list, just haven't gotten around to it. Haven't gotten around to it. There's a lot of projects like that. About halfway through this trip. How are we doing on... Oh yeah, we're doing great. Next rest stop in 4:26, and we've only got 3:51 left, so we are making good time. We are ahead of schedule. This is great. Very good. Oh, guys, big update. Yeah, that's the news. I finished The Wire. All 5 seasons. Man, what a ride. Crazy. Like, I've still got so many feelings about it, and I'm still sorting through all these emotions. I really enjoyed the 5th season. I enjoyed all the seasons. The 5th season definitely got more sensational. It got a little crazy. It wasn't... There were elements of it that weren't quite firmly seemingly as rooted in like the truthful telling of characters in the city of Baltimore, and yet really referring more to some of the situations, like the characters themselves. You know, many of them were concluding 5-season arcs or multi-season arcs here at the end of season 5. So I was compelled right up until the end. Even some of the new elements they brought in season 5 about the newspaper, the Baltimore Sun, is what it was focusing on, journalism, some of the ethics there, and some great storylines that I did certainly enjoy. So I loved the 5th season, 1, because it's fresh on my mind right now, and 2, just because it brought such a great conclusion. Like it was a really good closing series finale at the end, with sort of a just wrap up of a lot of things, some cameos by people we hadn't seen for some time. Very satisfying. I also had this... Oh, they got me for speeding. Oh, probably because we're going through a town. Leon discovered. Excellent. I kind of went through this switch, too, where... Ooh, took out that sign. When I was only like 1 or 2 episodes away from finishing, so I'm getting right to the climax of season 5. I'm enjoying it, but I was talking with a friend, and he was like, "So, are you gonna, rewatch The Wire?" And I've never been. I don't think there's a single show yet that I've ever like binge watched a second time. Now, granted, I certainly want to. Like Breaking Bad, I want to watch that. Oh, guys, I took that curve way too wrong. Sorry, I'm just going to block this intersection here real quick, like. There we go. Whew, okay. Like, I want to rewatch Breaking Bad, but it's also been 5-6 years now since I've seen it. So, certainly time for a rewatch there. So, he said, are you going to want to rewatch it? I said, I don't know. I mean, I really enjoyed The Wire, but will I ever want to rewatch it? I don't know. Hard to say. And then I finished the last episode, and I was like, okay, now I want to watch the show again. Like, now let's watch it again. I won't right away, but maybe down the road, give it 5, 7 years, 10 years. Who knows how long? Maybe I'll be ready to rewatch it again. I did just find a book based on a recommendation from someone else I know who has watched the series at least a couple times. That's an oral history of The Wire. So I've started reading that. I'm a good little chunk into it. But it's a lot of interviews and segments of interviews with people who worked on the show, cast members, crew members, the writers, the directors. So I'm already revisiting a bunch of memories and stuff from season 1 and early on, since it seems to go pretty chronological. So like I'm currently reading about all these stories about season 1 and things kicking off. I'm like, oh yeah, season 1. I went back even and watched some clips, and I was like, oh man, yeah, you don't even realize when you're in the moment of it. Over 5 seasons, over like 6 years of filming, like the characters, they age and they progress and they change. Looking back on season 1, I'm like, oh, some of them look so young. What a change. And of course, a lot of details from season 1, I'm like, I think I remember that, but I started it back in October, end of October, I think. So, it took me 6 months to get through it. Like an episode or a season a month or so on average. But what a great show. Thoroughly enjoyed it. For as slow of storytelling as it is, one of the lines in the book talked about The Wire is definitely like a novel, and each episode in a season is a chapter. Like you can't just you can't just come in somewhere, in chapter 4 and immediately pick up what's going on. Like it's a slow burn. It's a long, which I guess really is one of the reasons why when the show was airing, it was passed up for awards, and it was, it had some legs, but it wasn't immediately hailed as the best show ever. It kind of took some time for the show to really be acknowledged as what a great piece of writing and acting and storytelling. So, end of a journey. I got a little nostalgic as I finished it, just saying, we watched a whole lot of plot there, and learned a whole lot about Baltimore that I never knew before. So what's next on the binge watching agenda? Well, I'm pretty sure I'm going to dive into Mad Men as my next longer show. I think I've mentioned on here I'm watching Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and I just started season 2 of that as well. Really enjoying that. Comedy television for me, not always something that lands or I'm interested in, but Brooklyn Nine-Nine has got great characters and a good spirit and a lot of laughs to it, so I will keep going on Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and I'm going to start Mad Men next, which has 7 seasons or 9 seasons, I forget. It was basically between the Mad Men and The Sopranos, both of which I really want to watch. Those are like my next 2 series watching, and I've got to get, I think, through both of those before I will allow myself to rewatch Breaking Bad. I got a lot of TV to watch. I think I figured out that I forget how many hundreds of hours of shows it is that I have on backlog, but a bunch. So, but yeah, it was between Mad Men and The Sopranos, and I said, well, I just finished The Wire, which is all about crime, and The Sopranos would be jumping right to another, while highly lauded and certainly different in a lot of aspects, another HBO show that has to do with crime and stories adjacent to crime. And so I said, well, let's go for a little genre shift. Not saying there's no crime in Mad Men. I mean, I don't know, I haven't watched the whole thing. But it's a little different world. So we're jumping from 2000s era Baltimore back to 1950s era. Where does Mad Men take place? Is it New York City? I think I just kind of assume it's New York City, but I don't actually know. We'll find out. I think I watched the pilot of Mad Men years ago, but I was not in like a big TV watching phase then, so I know almost nothing about the show. I know of Don Draper, of course, played by John Hamm. Yeah, I've seen a handful of clips from it here and there. I know the faces of several characters, but I'm not entirely sure of like who they are within the agency, their marketing agency, corporate structure, etc. Yeah, so I've got a whole lot to discover. And I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, that's gonna be the next fun journey. So who knows? That may take me another 4 or 5 months to get through. We'll see exactly how bingeable it is, but we'll keep going on both that and Brooklyn Nine-Nine. And a lot of toll roads here. This part of the country in Europe. Big yawn. My dude's ready for a nap. I'm gonna have to remember before or at the beginning of that sympathetic yawning. It's a thing. It's definitely a thing. At the beginning of next week's episode, gonna have to start out by getting a little rest. I think the city that we're gonna end up in is a new one, though, so we can start next episode by exploring the city a bit. Ooh, mine just kind of zipped through that traffic circle. Wasn't so much a traffic circle as it was kind of a traffic bend. If you don't mind the side... Oh, no, this one I needed to turn... Oh, dear. Oh, boys, we're off-roading here. Oh, that's not good. Yeah, I don't know why I just kind of decided to ram into that tree hoping it would fall down in front of me. Too much Crazy Taxi. Played too many racing games as a kid. Clermont-Ferrand. Okay, yeah, see, this is good. There's a mechanic. There's a couple of hotels there. There's a garage to look at that I will not buy. That's good. We'll have a chance to explore this town just a little bit at the beginning of next week. Whoop. Let's play it safe. Got me pulling around the back. The rear loading docks. Take the wide turn. Almost. Overshot it just a bit. There we go. Nope. Overshot it again. Overshot it again. There we go. Back and forth, back and forth. Let's drop off these sugar and spices. Let's send everything nice as salt and spices. Look at that. Wow, they didn't give me any damage bonuses. Good, because it was all on the cab there, so I kept crashing into things. So, hey, yeah, we got the roll. Excellent. We've hit level 11. Nice work. Long distance, high value, just in time. Yeah, I'm feeling that high value. That's going to just keep bringing the money in. I think that's what we want right now. So my rating is 2.5. Let's take a look at our company manager here. Ryan, how you doing? Okay, yep, you're going to train for long distance. That's good. Take a look at your log. Okay, what have you... yeah, you did. I forget how many of these were done. Are you on day 13? Are we on day 13 now? I forget. Pork and diggers. Maybe you did those last time. But regardless, you stopped to rest. That's good. You're not overdriving. All right, keep it up, Ryan. You're a smart trucker, man. I will let you I will let you manage yourself. Making good money, making good progress. Yeah, and that'll do it for this week. Like I said, kind of a short episode. We'll maybe do a little bit longer one next week. We'll see. But yeah, guys. Hey, thanks for watching. Always good to have you here talking about sugar and spice. Sorry, salt and spice, and everything else that is nice on Bean Games Trucking. We'll see you next time.
Bean Game.